guys. So I want to start first off by saying thank you for watching this video. I know everybody has very busy schedules, so the fact that you were willing to take time out of your day to watch this video really means a lot to me. So I know you probably want to jump into the interviews and everything, but first I just wanted to give a little bit of background. So the issue of eating disorders is actually really personal to me. I know I don't talk about it very much, and I've actually never shared my story before like I am doing in this video today, but I have dealt with an eating disorder for multiple years, and I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be that girl who hates everything about her body, who compares herself with everybody around her and just feels like she never ever will live up to the standards set by society. I know what it feels like to be the high school or college athlete who thinks that maybe if they just eat less, if they just lose this few extra pounds, that you'll be able to run faster or be stronger or perform better. I know what these things feel like, but I also know that there are so many things that I didn't know. I didn't know how common eating disorders were. I thought I was the only one and didn't realize that so many of my peers, so many people around me, people that I already knew, were dealing with the exact same struggles as me. I didn't know that it wasn't my fault, that it was actually a chemical imbalance in my brain, and that it wasn't something I had done wrong, that there was nothing wrong with me as a person because I had these mental health struggles. I didn't know that purging doesn't follow a set schedule and that you don't have to be on a feeding tube in the hospital to have anorexia. I didn't know any of these things. And that is why I'm making this video. That is why I'm sharing my story for the first time in my life. Because my whole goal, my whole hope in making this video is that someone watching this will hear the words that they need to. That someone watching this will understand and that it will speak to them and that they will realize that they are not alone. You are not alone. There's hope. There's life beyond an eating disorder. And if these things that we're talking about today don't mean anything to you personally, I encourage you to still watch, still listen, still learn, because this issue is so prevalent and so many young people deal with these struggles. And by watching this video and getting a deeper understanding, there's a very good chance you'll be able to help someone that you love. You may even save a life. That's how serious these are. So again, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. And I hope that it really speaks to you and that it really helps you. And that you can know if you're the one struggling or if it's someone that you love, there is hope and there is healing.
So I struggled with binge eating and bulimia for a little while, but it actually started because I was trying to be anorexic, trying not to eat, but I couldn't do that, and so I tried to find other ways to make myself thinner, and I couldn't not eat because I kept on binging, and then I would go and purge afterwards. So my disorder began in my junior year of high school, and I do feel comfortable sharing a bit. It's kind of like all over the place, but I've been an athlete my whole life, and going back, like way back, my mom was a bodybuilder and she had an eating disorder when she was younger, and hers was anorexia. And I think growing up we were always so food conscious and don't eat this because it'll make you fat, you're not allowed to have soda or this, you're not allowed to eat this. But at the same time, it was the wrong reasons of why not to eat those things. Rather than outward appearance, it should have just been focused on health rather than what you're going to look like if you do eat those things. And so in high school, I started to get very insecure about the way I looked because I couldn't understand why all my friends had a different body type than I do. And I ended up breaking my ankle during that summer, and I was out for 11 months. And during that time, I couldn't really work out because I had to have surgery on it. I couldn't really work out, and I couldn't do a lot of things, and it led into like depression and why am I this way, and drinking and just all the bad stuff. So it initially started with me going out and partying with my friends and drinking and eating a bunch and then throwing up and kind of blaming it on the alcohol. And then after a while it kind of turned into more of like a daily thing. And then honestly, I felt good that I had it, which is really sad to say because I liked the way I looked. I felt good about myself, but at the same time, like, it's not healthy. I was constantly going out partying. I was constantly doing like all this stuff to make my outward appearance look great when really on the inside I was hurting a lot. And I kept on telling my parents, like, I want to switch schools. I don't like my school. I want to go to a boarding school. I don't like Tucson. Like, I needed to get away. I needed to change my life somehow. And I just didn't fit in. And one day I was like not doing well. I kind of like hated myself. I hated my friends. I hated everything about my life. And it got really bad. I got very, very, very depressed to the point where I didn't really want to live anymore. And I prayed and cried for about 2 hours, and I didn't even know if God exists. I was just praying to something that I don't even know if it's real. And I sat there and cried and literally just like begging something, and it was and like right after that, like, it's crazy to say, but God is real. For me, I believe God is real. But my whole life changed after that. I moved high schools. I still had like an eating disorder, but for some reason, like I made whole new friends. I had a whole new life, and at that point I knew that like this is really unhealthy. I can't keep living my life like this, and I need to make a change. And so I still was partying a lot, and I still was not like doing like all the right things, but I was heading in the right direction, I think. And I would go out and I would party, and then I would eat and purge, and I finally, for some reason, like it was a conviction on my heart, and I kept on praying about it, and I knew that it wasn't right, and I needed to change the way I thought of myself. And I know, like, in God's eyes, like, I'm much more of a person than to be doing this to myself. Like, I'm literally ruining God's creation. So I don't know, he like took it away. It was really hard to stop, but a lot of the time, like nowadays, I get instinct to go do that, but I think about like everything that has happened in my life. Like when I think about it, I want to go do it, and then I think how far I've come, and I don't want to put myself back again. So it is hard, and you just have to push yourself to not go to those places. And I still binge sometimes, and those are the hardest times, because I had to ask God to help me not let food control me. And a lot of the time I'll eat when I'm very stressed out, and I'll just keep eating, and then I want to go purge or something like that. But I've been working on just loving my body for what it does. Like, I have legs, I can walk, I can run, I could go do all those things. I just think, like, whoever's watching this or listening to this video, you are so much more than what you are on the outside, and your body is beautiful the way it is, and you don't need to do anything to it to make it more beautiful. Like, God created you especially for who you are, and
So my struggles with food started when I was in high school. When I was almost 17, I got mononucleosis and it laid me up. I was super nauseous, completely lost my appetite. And as a direct result of losing my appetite, I lost weight. I lost like almost 10 pounds in 2 or 3 weeks, and that was significant for me. You see, I had for the last couple years, 15, 16, I had become like really uncomfortable in my own body. I was in that really like awkward stage of being a teenager where your body's changing, you go out, but your height doesn't always catch up right away, and I felt like I looked different than my friends, and I just wasn't happy with my appearance, with how I looked, how I felt in my body. For about a year, while I was 16 or so, I'd been playing around with the whole, eat less, exercise more thing, and I don't know, after I got that mono, and I just saw how quickly I could lose weight if I really just didn't eat very much. That was incredible to me, and I realized how much I wanted that. So I started actually tracking my food, like really paying attention to the amount of calories and things. Calories were not something that had even been a conception in my mind before that, but suddenly it was something that I worried about, and everything that I put in my mouth had like this calorie amount, this number amount attached to it. And so I started kind of like catering what I ate around that. And I also started exercising more. I've always been active, always enjoyed spending time moving my body, but it became less about moving my body for joy, even though I did still take great joy out of it, but it was more about like, what could I get out of it? What could I burn off of it, so to speak? So I started training a lot more and eating a lot less, and my body wasn't happy with that. In the beginning of my senior year, I tore my meniscus and ripped my calf muscle in two different places, and strained my hamstring on my other leg, and I was out of commission for 6 months, something like that. And I felt at that point in time when my physical therapist told me, you can't run, you can't cycle, can't lift weights, you can't even walk without a brace, I just felt like I had lost all control. And I found there was only one thing, it seemed like, left in my life that I had control over, and that was the amount of food that I put in my mouth. And so I started really restricting them. At just the time when my body really needed the extra calories to heal, to rebuild my meniscus, I started cutting calories. I figured if I wasn't able to work out, I didn't need to eat. And so I started seeing how little food I could get by on every day. First it was cutting out snacks, then it was cutting out all sugar, it was cutting out most carbs, it was cutting out breakfast, it was skipping lunch. When I felt hunger, I felt like I was doing it right. Hunger was a sign that I was burning calories, that I was losing weight, that I was going to get the body that I wanted, because somehow being thinner was going to make me feel better. I was going to be happier. I was going to love myself if I had this external body that I could picture in my head. So yeah, I ate a lot less, and I moved as much as I possibly could, even with an injury. And once I was cleared to start exercising again, I immediately started running again, because at that point in my life, I was afraid to stay still, because I knew without a doubt, if I sat down for more than an hour straight, I was going to blow up. I was going to gain weight. I was going to get fat. I could not stop moving. I had to move. I would study while I was walking and pacing. I would put bands on my legs and do bar exercises while I was standing and typing at my computer because I just had to keep moving. Sitting still made me so anxious because I had to be burning calories. I had to be expending this energy, otherwise I knew I was going to gain weight. And my food was getting worse at this point. I was exercising more. I was eating as little as I could possibly get by on. My cycling a few nights a week turned into cycling every day, weightlifting every day, going on walks every day, coming home from already being at the gym for 2 hours and putting on snow gear to go run in the dark at night. And it took control of my life, this fascination with my size. And it controlled everything for me. I could not go an hour, half an hour even, without thinking about food and my weight and what I looked like and what other people thought of me. I would be afraid to leave the house because I would look at myself in the mirror and just cry and think, how can I go into public when I look like this? What are people going to think of me, of my thighs or my stomach that isn't perfectly flat? I cannot leave the house looking like this. I hated myself and my appearance so much. And the more I focused on it, the worse it got. And I could not stand to be with myself. And I didn't understand how anyone could stand to be around me when I was so ugly, I was so annoying, I was so all of these things, this list of things that I had in my mind, and that was what I always focused on. Around this time, I turned 18, graduated high school, and I knew there was something wrong with me. I was so depressed. I knew, because I love fitness and exercise and nutrition, I knew I had a problem. I knew I needed help. I was scared to change. I didn't want to change, but I reached out and I told my mom I was afraid to eat more. And she, of course, just said, well, if you need more food, eat more food. I started crying and I'm like, you don't understand, I can't. And I had lost, at that point, about 40 pounds. My mom started trying to make me eat. She would sit me down and tell me that I had to eat, and I would just cry and I would scream and I would storm off to my room because I had so much fear and I could not put that food into my mouth or I would just immediately, just like that, gain weight. I knew it and I was so terrified, and so I could not eat. I went to the doctor and the doctor sent me to a counseling, and unfortunately, the counselor ended up being a really bad fit for me, and I kind of fired her basically right before I left for college and convinced everyone around me that I had it under control. I was eating more at that point, but I didn't understand that eating more when you're still in a 1,000 to 1,500 calorie deficit every day is not enough. But I convinced everyone I had it under control. And I convinced myself too. I think through this whole process, I was lying to myself way more than I was lying to everybody else. I got to college and, if even possible, was exercising more. I don't even know how. I had 10 different classes. I was up at 5 a.m. to do a HIIT workout before starting on schoolwork at 5:45. I would take a break and literally full-on sprint around campus because I could do that in 5 to 10 minutes and burn calories and not waste time. If I had to study, I would make flashcards and go and walk all around campus for sometimes multiple hours because I had to be moving. I would do calf raises while I was reading my textbooks. Everything was about how many calories I could burn. And I looked amazing. My body was solid muscle. I had a perfect six-pack, but I was severely malnourished at this point. You could see it in my eyes, in my face. I noticed my hair was starting to get really thin. My skin it just looked like thin and stretched out. My heart would like start squeezing, and it felt like it was clenched in a fist, and then it would just like relax, and just like this erratic heartbeat. And I would lay in bed at night and feel like my own heart rate was so weak that I would be afraid if I went to sleep, I may not wake up in the morning. My heart rate got down to 32 beats per minute because it was so malnourished, and I was asking it to do so much. In the first couple months of college, I lost another 15 pounds. I remember I stepped on the scale and I went, that number cannot be right. And I actually made my sweet mate come in and get on the scale and tell me if the number on the scale was actually what she weighed. And she said, yeah, that's what I weigh. Why? I said, because the number on the scale can't possibly be what I weigh. I didn't know how I could have lost that much weight that fast, when in my mind I was doing better. I was recovering, I was eating, but all my clothes didn't fit. I would put on sweaters that I just brought with me 2 months before from home, and they hung off of my shoulders like a paper bag. None of my jeans fit. They all fell down. I had to start buying children's sizes, and even those were too big around the waist. I had to wear children's size pants with a belt to stay on because everything else was too big for me. But I didn't see it. I would look in the mirror and I'd see this bloated, huge, ugly, swollen girl. And I just saw everything that needed to change. I still needed to lose weight. I needed more muscle. I needed this. I needed this. I needed this. And then I finally just stopped looking at myself in the mirror because I could not stand what I saw. So I thought if I just stopped looking at myself, then maybe it would go away. But it didn't go away. My body was breaking down. I made decisions then based off of my appearance, and I had no thought for what it would do for my future. And I look back now at that 16, 17, 18-year-old girl who was so gorgeous and so strong and hated herself so much and made these decisions, and it didn't help. I didn't feel better when I had lost the weight and was skin and bones. Then I just hated myself in a different way, because that's not what it's about. And I was willing to give up so much of my future, and there's stuff I still deal with today as a direct result of that. I adore running, but I can't run because my body doesn't tolerate it anymore, at least not right now. I hope and pray that one day I'll be able to run again. I'm almost 21 years old and I haven't had my period in 3 years now. And my doctors have very seriously told me that there's a very good possibility that I will never be able to have children of my own. I may have to just adopt because of these decisions that I made as an 18-year-old girl who hated herself and who wasn't willing to accept her body as it was. And that I'm not going to look like everyone around me because I'm not everyone around me. Right after midterms of my freshman year, I got 2 concussions within 2 weeks, and my parents had to come get me and bring me home. And I was not allowed to go back to school for the whole rest of the year, and actually the next year as well. But what should have been a minor concussion, because I was so malnourished and my body had no padding, it ended up being severe brain trauma. And I had all of these other issues because my body had no stores, it had no energy, and healing itself was really hard. When I got home from school, my parents quickly knew there was something wrong, like very, very wrong. I was so thin. All of my bones stuck out everywhere. You could not hug me without feeling every single rib in the front and back of my body. All the vertebrae going down my spine, you could feel, you could see them if you looked at me. My hip bones were like jutting out, like you could grab onto them practically. My knee bones, I couldn't even cross my legs without bruising because the bones just stuck out so much and there was no padding there in between. I actually, when it was literally only 20 degrees outside, not even that cold, I caught legitimate hypothermia because I had no body fat left on my body to protect me. And I was still eating, but not near enough, and I was using laxatives because I felt like that allowed me to like empty stuff out of my body, and in my mind, I wasn't purging unless I was throwing up, which I never did. I tried on multiple occasions to make myself throw up, but I was never, thank the Lord, able to do it. But I still wasn't eating enough regardless. It didn't matter. And at that point in time, my mom sat me down and told me, unless something changed, I was not going to have many more weeks to make the decision to change things myself because my body was breaking down so quickly at that point. I had to either make the decision right there to live or not. And there was nothing my parents could do at that point in time because I was 18. I was a legal adult. They couldn't even check me into a hospital without me having to sign off and approve being there, which I wasn't willing to do. I was so depressed. I was so angry at myself and the world. I saw my body falling apart and it was not able to do anything anymore. And I knew I wanted out. I didn't want to live like that anymore. I didn't want to feel like that. I didn't want to look in the mirror and cry just seeing myself. I didn't want to lay in bed at night and think about the freedom that would come if my life ended because I just hurt so much on the inside. I didn't want that anymore. And so in January of 2019, I decided I was going to change. I decided right then and there that I wanted to live because I was not living at that point. I was dying on the inside and I was not myself. I was not my happy, normal self. I was angry. I was in tears. I was depressed. I was putting on a face for everyone around me who would say, "How are you?" And I'd say, "I'm good." And I was so far from good. I had turned away from God at that point. I had stopped relying on Him. And my life was just falling apart and my body was falling apart. And I just decided enough was enough. I wanted to change and I was going to change. I knew it was going to have to be me all along and I just had to hit rock bottom to get there and make that decision. And once I made that decision, I'm a really stubborn person. So, and I had a lot of people praying for me. I started eating. I started eating again what I could. And when I was cleared to exercise again, I was lifting weights and doing strength-based stuff that I knew would help me put mass on my body. And I was eating a lot of food. I started seeking out these foods that I had been so afraid of. Things that are like so high calorie, and I had, for 2 years of my life at that point, not allowed myself to eat. Started embracing these fear foods, and I started feeling better. Mentally even, I started feeling like myself. I started letting go of that depression and realizing that there's so much more to life than my body and what I'm putting into it. Even now, it's been 2 full years, I still have days where I don't want to eat, where I'm stressed, where I'm angry, where I look in the mirror and I hate what I see. But when I have those moments, I stop and I know how to address it. And I know that these are just lies in my head. And I know where they'll take me if I decide to follow them. So I don't listen. If I'm hungry, I eat. If I'm I'm not hungry, I still eat because I love food. And I know my body needs the nourishment. Now, if I feel like I don't feel well, I need a break, or I don't even have time, I have no problem skipping the gym. I have no problem skipping a workout. And when I do go to the gym, I go because I love it and I enjoy it so much. And even if it's like a suboptimal workout, okay, that's fine. You don't have to be killing it every single time. It's about moving my body. It's about joy. It's about cooking because I love food and I love cooking. And I have this joy around food and exercise that it's almost childlike now, just because I've taught myself to love these blessings that God has given me, to love the body that, yeah, I'm still not where I want to be. I still have a lot of health issues, even after 2 years of eating a lot of food and lifting weights. My body's still honestly kind of weak, but that's okay because I'm here and I'm alive, and God has given me this new joy for life and this new thankfulness for where I am. So if you're watching this today, I just want to say that you're not alone. I know that's a cliche thing and a lot of people say that, but it's true. Since my eating disorder, I have found that so many more people struggle with this than you think. You look at all these people and you think that everyone has their life together, but honestly, I can tell you, like, the people who look the best on the outside often are the ones that are hurting the most on the inside. But there is hope and you can recover. I don't care what people tell you about how, like, eating disorders are for life. If you put the work in and you make that choice and you want to live, you can live again. You can enjoy working out. You can enjoy eating. You cannot have that fear. It's not something that has to bind you for your whole life. So I encourage you, if you are feeling those thoughts, having those fears, feeling that way about your body, please talk to someone, because there is hope and it's never, ever, 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 ever too late to change. And you have such a bright